Deaton, where the hell are you now?
I'm in my parents' backyard in Edmond, Oklahoma. I pulled in Sunday and have moved the camper next to my dad's shed and am using that as my headquarters. Wallace is currently underneath it, hiding from the heat and my parents' dog, who is his best friend that he hates.
Gotcha. How hot is it out there?
It's 88 degrees with 50% humidity.
And
the barometric pressure is 750, if you were curious about that.
Hotter than it is here. Have you guys seen the World Cup people enjoying the treats of America?
The World Cup people what?
So the World Cup's starting, by the time that people listen to this, it might be starting today. I think it's on Thursday that it officially kicks off. But it's taking place in Canada, the United States, and Mexico, with the bulk of the games happening in the United States. And so that means fans from around the world are currently in America. And there's a few that have gone viral. There's a German fan who flew into Atlanta and went to a game at the Auburn Stadium in Alabama last night. Lionel Messi played a friendly against Iceland, but along the way, they are experiencing the treats that are America, up to and including the size of suburban houses, Waffle House, and Buc-ee's. But they are delighted.
You know, there was this moment in Cold War history, right before the conclusion of the Soviet Union, where I don't remember what his job was at the time. It was like maybe mayor of Moscow, but Yeltsin went on a tour of America, and when he saw a grocery store in Texas, he went back to his car and started crying and said, "My God, what did we do to our people?" Maybe seeing Buc-ee's
Well, no, that's
at the size of a suburban home.
He went to a grocery store, assumed it was a setup because that's how they do it in Russia.
Right, of course.
And was told it was not a setup. And he's like,
yeah, they were like, no problem. We'll just go to a different grocery store.
You want to go to another one? We can just go to another one down the road. And they went to like 3 grocery stores. And by the end of it, he's just like, fuck. What did we do?
My God. What did we do? So yeah, maybe that's what's going on with suburban houses right now. Of like, wait a minute. Could we have large houses?
Well, there was, so this
gas
German
stations with nuts and chocolate in them?
This German guy who's gone viral, like one of his things was just like, he was driving through Gainesville, Georgia, which I believe is a suburb of Atlanta. And he's just recording the houses, which are like, they're bigger suburban houses. And he's just like, what is happening? How are these houses so big? There's another Swedish lady who's also gone viral, largely because she's hot, but was shocked at how the Wi-Fi on her plane ride was faster than she has in her house.
Who is the guy in Gainesville? Where was he from?
This is the German dude. Let me see if I can find. I
guess that's the deal. Is you get walkable but smaller.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not here to crown a winner. I mean, because by every metric we've already won, but I do like to see people enjoying things.
Yeah, Jen, you've been auspiciously quiet for the last 3 minutes. Like, I brought up Yeltsin just a little bit to needle you, and you didn't even react. What's going on? Are you okay?
So I'm at my parents' house, and we back up to a cul-de-sac, and some semi-truck, very large, with a tractor, just came up here, and it looked like it was trying to drop off the tractor, so it was like nonstop beeping because it was backing up. And now it is backing up out of the entire cul-de-sac. So it's just
Jen, I apologize. I actually, for your dad's birthday, I got him a tractor. I found a tractor clearance site. I thought Mr. Clark could probably use the tractor. I doubt he has one. So I ordered him a John Deere tractor. Happy birthday.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm totally distracted, but I was trying to mute this and then just watching this chaos. Now this guy is trying to go onto one of the busiest streets in LA, still backing up with the tractor. It's really entertaining. It's not going to go well for him.
I would like to know what a tractor is doing in the middle of LA.
Me too. We're by the beach. Why is this here? So yeah, I have so many questions.
Growing kelp?
Yeah, he's now going the wrong way on this street. He's backed up into the main road. It's chaos. Yeah, he's holding up all the traffic. So yeah, it's This is fantastic.
So the German fan that has gone viral is Freddie LA7.
Oh, yeah,
The
he's my
other
favorite
one-
footballer.
The other one is Fiaggio7. So
hate that guy.
Fiago7.
No, Fiaggio's
But
a
both
piece
of them are
shit.
in America. Gobsmacked. One of them Freddie went to Bucky's last night, and the internet went crazy. He was shocked
real
at
quick?
how many gas pumps there were and how much brisket he could buy.
I'm going to lose some Texas points here.
Okay.
But
Don't
I think
shit on Buc-ee's.
I think Buc-ee's is overrated. I think it's overrated. Like you're
Overrated for what?
Here, okay,
What was your expectation of Buc-ee's that makes it overrated?
Here's
Was
the
it
thing.
the amount of gas pumps? Were you expecting 150 and you only got 100?
It's perfectly adequate to get gas from. It's perfectly adequate to get food from. But it's basically a Walmart gas station hybrid. So like
Yes.
if you were going to stop and get gas and go, which is fine, by the way, but
Beaver themed.
I know people that go ape shit for it. Like one of my friends got a hat there. And he apologetically said, I'm going to buy the hat to the lady at the cash register. And she's like, this is nothing. People spend thousands of dollars here. And I'm like, at that point where you're so excited to go to Buc-ee's, you might as well just go to Walmart or somewhere else or like spend the money elsewhere. Like again, if it's just, I'm going to a gas station and I want to happen to get brisket because it's convenient, knocking it out of the park. Well done. But the idea that it's really high quality, that it's as good as a barbecue you'd sit down at, I think we're stretching there.
I don't think anyone's saying that. I think that if you're on a road trip and you have to get gas and your choice is some Chevron where like the bathroom's got a crackhead in it and like you have to get the key, which is attached to some board, like it can be a really unpleasant experience. You roll into a Buc-ee's, especially not knowing what you're going to get, and you walk in there and there's beavers all over the place and you can get a full body onesie with brisket and like they have a wall of nuts, all the different kind of nuts that you could possibly ask for. Like, it's an exciting gas station and it's
I agree with
so
you.
cheesy.
I guess this is my thing. I have the same perspective on people that go to the Hard Rock Cafe when they're out of the country, where I'm just like, why go to a Hard Rock Cafe when you're on the vacation? If someone's just like, we're going to get gas, a Buc-ee's great. I'm talking about like there's I don't know, I've met a few people that are like excited to like plan their trip around Buc-ee's, and I'm like, that's overdoing it.
There's a few things that I think you're missing. Number one, yes, it is a thing that you can plan your trip around. So if you know that you need to get gas on this road trip, you can easily say, all right, well, I can make it to the Buc-ee's and then, I can get to here and there. It's enough of a spectacle that you can plan your fill up there.
I'm guilty of that one.
Two, they are in small towns. So for small town, and we're going to use Texas because it's mostly a Texas-based chain. For small town Texas, for rural Texas, the Buc-ee's might be the poppin' place. Like there's not a ton there that has the kind of capacity that a Buc-ee's has in terms of the things that they're offering, the kind of stuff that they have. So it might mean something more rural regionally than us fucking coastal elites.
I officially stand down. I stand down. You all are right, Jen.
Good.
You were correct that a market economy and capitalism has brought affluence and joy to the American people, and that corporations like Buc-ee's are their handmaid. Thank you for setting me straight on this.
I like Buc-ee's.
Before we get into the big stuff here, Spencer Pratt. Pratfall. He is not going to make the general election. Nithya Raman overtaking him.
It was rigged.
Here's all I'll say. California has an untenable election system. You cannot have elections go this long if you don't want to invite people saying that things are rigged. Because if somebody were to say, look at where the votes were on election night, which was about 64% of the expected electorate, then understand where they needed to go to box one candidate out, stuff a bunch of ballots into drop boxes, then the time that it would show up would be around Friday or Saturday when Nithya Raman surged uncommonly in the vote count. Now, does that mean that's what happened? No, It doesn't mean that's what happened. This could very well be the normal fluctuation of an election that, if it happened in the course of 12 hours, would just be a thing that happens over the course of 12 hours. Instead, it happened over the course of 7 days, and that's bad. That is a bad thing. It is a bad thing, and we should not be encouraging it. We should be actively urging California to get their shit together.
And like, we've agreed on this, that yes, they could and should make things go faster. But California does this election after election after election. So if like you're a mouth breather and you don't understand how the California election system works, and you're like purposely trying to tell people that this is rigged, even though this has been the way it's worked in California for many years.
Stop
There's
complaining about the rigging.
It's such bullshit. And people that know better are doing it because they can't believe Spencer Pratt lost. Like, are you serious? Like, the number of people that I'm seeing online, Bridget Fetisi looking at you, claiming that this is rigged when they should know better, is absolutely infuriating. And shame on every single person who is doing it.
It was odd. It was odd to see the vote drops Friday and Saturday. I was following it very closely. No,
not odd. This
not in
keeps
terms of the
happening.
race. Not in terms of the race. In terms of there being, I had the outside chance that Nithya Raman was going to overtake Spencer Pratt, but I thought it was going to be along the lines of, as the votes were coming in, that she would outrun. I knew she was going to outrun Spencer Pratt, but she would outrun him by 15 to 17% vote drop by vote drop. And if she did that enough, she'd be able to kind of like barely overtake him. That to me would feel like the voter universe that had been established at the beginning. To introduce an entirely new voter universe, as if two kind of separate elections happened, where Nithya Raman was the number one vote getter. She was outrunning not only Spencer Pratt, but also Karen Bass. That's odd. Is it indicative of fraud? I don't know. But when you spread it out over 7 days, it's fucking impossible to tell.
Don't be this guy, Justin.
What have I said is controversial?
That you don't know if it's fraud.
It's impossible to know.
It's not impossible to know.
Why not?
California has had these election systems in place for a long time. They have a lot of ways that they check things. There's just the fact that the reporting happens in batches. Like, this is not indicative of fraud. And I think we are actively doing damage to our...
It's not just that.
Okay. I can't believe we're actually having this conversation. You think that the LA mayoral race was fraud. Seriously.
Did you fucking listen to what I said?
Yeah, I did.
Then
You're putting a big question mark on
it,
and I don't think that question mark is justified.
Oh, I'd put a gigantic question mark, and I know that they fucking put it there because they can't get their shit together to count these votes in a reasonable amount of time.
The
and it's not just me saying it.
Does not
Talk to
tell
Ro
you.
Khanna. Ro Khanna said the same fucking thing.
It doesn't look good, but that is different than they're actually... No. The timing of when the vote drops does not tell you anything about whether or not the votes are valid. Anything.
Exactly.
So to put a giant question mark on the validity of this election because you don't like the timing, that's mouth breather shit.
I'm not saying I don't like the timing. I'm saying that the timing suggests that there were two totally separate elections. There was one election that happened, at least a voter universe, right? And I'm referring to just the way that the votes came in. There was a voter pattern that happened from election day until Thursday. And that was Bass at around 30%, Pratt at around 27 to 26%, Nithya Raman somewhere between 19% and 21%. And then on Friday, it went to Raman at like 31%, Bass at like 28%, and Pratt at like 19%.
Okay.
Now, does that mean that there was fraud? No. And I will say this again so everybody hears me. We don't know that it was fraud, but
we don't know that it was fraud. What are you saying?
If it were fraud, it would look exactly like that. So the problem is not that there is proof of one or the other. The problem is that when you spread this shit out so long, it is indistinguishable from each other, and that is what damages democracy. People asking questions about it don't damage democracy. The system Creating the fucking gaps of doubt damages democracy. California elections have done more damage to democracy than January 6th.
Show me one bit of evidence that there was fraud in this and we can have this conversation. But the timing doesn't tell you there was fraud. And I don't think that it is proper to be saying that we have a question mark on this election until there's any evidence of fraud, which there is none.
Am I saying that? I'm not saying that at all.
No, you'll say there's no fraud, and then you say a thing that makes it sound like you think like it could be fraud. Like,
no, I'm saying it is indistinguishable from fraud.
100% no.
It is indistinguishable from fraud because of the fucking way that California decides to conduct their election.
Indistinguishable from fraud means there's fraud.
That's
you can't say
not
it's
what
indistinguishable, but you literally just said it. You literally just said that sentence.
Keaton.
Yeah, I think, allow me to fix all of this.
Go.
Listeners, what Jen is saying is that I don't know, I'm just asking questions is a subtle way of undermining the system and is, in effect, emotionally and substantially the same thing as asserting fraud. Justin is saying that the appearance of fraud and the absence of fraud in this instance look the same, and that because you can conflate them so easily, the system itself, whether it is fraudulent or not, invites questions about the legitimacy of the system. I will now put this all to bed. As a member of the Illuminati and a junior associate at Bohemian Grove, the guy we tried to rig the election for was Tom Steyer. You know, capitalist billionaire in the Democratic Party. We thought he was pretty good. Didn't take it. So we weren't able to make it happen. And we did knock out that other tower in 9/11. We did knock that out. Sorry.
Building 7.
Yeah, Building 7. Yeah. But it was a mistake. It was a mistake. It was actually unrelated.
Yeah, I just really hate the system, and I hate people defending the system.
Here's the thing. It's not the system. It's the amount of time it takes to count the votes. I have personally experienced the system in California. I was a poll worker in California. I know how many checks and balances there are. So when
Jen, the fact that you were a stripper in California doesn't give you any type of insight in this. Can we get back to the episode itself?
I know. I wish we would call it something else, but here we do call it poll worker. Makes me sound like Sydney Sweeney.
Old Straddle Briney, as they called her back in the day.
But yeah, I've witnessed the system from the inside. The system is fine. But the way that we count things and how long it takes is what's not fine. But the fact that they are counted, that they check the signatures, like it takes a while with the mail-in ballots because they do these checks and balances. Like it takes a long time. Could they start counting the mail-in ballots earlier? Absolutely. Could we require people to either walk in the ballots on election day if you want to wait that long, or send it in 5 days earlier? Absolutely. We could change the timing without saying that the entire system here is broken, because that is just not true. I don't doubt that every one of those votes were valid as long as it took, which I do agree with you is unacceptable, but I don't think the system and the timing are the same thing.
Yeah, when I say the system, I'm talking about the vote counting. That is the system that I am talking about. I think you are inviting this. You are inviting these conversations if you continue to have elections that stretch for weeks when they don't have to. There's no legitimate reason that I have ever heard as to why California cannot adopt a system that makes this go faster. It is just ridiculous.
Isn't that weird though that California would adopt some kind of like weirdly regulated onerous system that drags things out? Like that doesn't sound like California.
I mean, and this is where you get into the other side of it is like, well, if the right people keep getting elected, then why change it?
But again, who people votes for, like, it doesn't matter if it takes you 10 weeks to count the votes or if it takes 10 minutes, the result is still the same. The good intentions behind what California does is they want to make sure that everybody can vote up until election day. Now, do I think changes that wouldn't really affect our system very much could be made? I've already said yes to that. But I think where we wander into the realm of irresponsible is conflating the system with the timing that it takes to count the votes. Because by making it seem like the system is broken, like the whole system, because it takes so long to count them, like it, I think if you have a microphone, it is your responsibility to explain to people why this is happening and not tell them that there's something to be afraid of. And there's a lot of people right now that are insinuating fraud when they could just find out how the system works and explain it. And instead, they're saying like, oh, this it looks like fraud, so it must be fraud. Like, that's irresponsible.
I hope that it continues. I want to pour gasoline on the fraud fire until they fix the system. That's what I am an accelerationist. I want people to have no faith in California elections until they feel the need that they need to change it. Like, I genuinely think that it does damage to our fucking democracy. I think it's abhorrent.
I think conversations like, not this one, I think we're actually doing some good here, but I think that this does danger to democracy. To pretend that taking a long time to count votes properly is the same thing as fraud, like, that's really dangerous.
You know what's crazy? Back in 2024, when me and the guys from Bohemian Grove rigged the election in California, Trump won. It was crazy. I mean, you wouldn't have thought that, but Trump totally won California. But we changed that. Couldn't let that stand.
Yeah. There was no fraud when Trump wins. There's no fraud when the Republicans win. And yet when the Democrats win, oh, there's so much fraud.
No,
You know the best counter to the
with the Elon change the votes. There was a poll. There was a crazy poll. I think it was like Maine that were like 64% of all respondents believed that Trump rigged the election in 24.
Well,
yeah, for the record, there's always sore losers that do this. Like Stacey Abrams still claims that the election was rigged against her by the guy that stood up to Trump to not rig the election later on, right? So it's much more massive in scale when the president of the United States is doing it. I think the best counterposition to the whole fraudulent Republican or the election was stolen by Trump back in 2024 is from your friend and mine, Scott Kluge, who points out that in numerous districts, the Republican candidate won the congressional race while Trump lost the presidential race, which is an incredible level of nuance for somebody rigging the election. To go, we're not going to rig the election to make sure that we've got a House majority, but we are going to rig the election against the president. It's like, look, he fucking lost. And that's destructive, too, when the Republicans, the sheer amount of spineless Republicans that won't just say the election was fine because no one in the Republican Party can stand up to Trump ever at any point. That's also causing a lot of problems. So I think we should do the following. We need to get rid of Donald Trump, and we need to get rid of California. And the solution to this is to make Donald Trump king of California and then just cut the whole thing loose.
I will also point out in this primary, we also have a top two runoff for governor, in which a Republican was one of the top two. So are you telling me that they rigged it to stop the existential threat of Spencer Pratt becoming LA mayor, but Steve Hilton can possibly become the governor? Like,
are you asking
this?
for my theory?
No, I'm saying that this is fucking
you
dumb.
Won't like it. You won't like it if you actually want to go into my headcanon on how and why, if it happened. I'll be like OJ. I didn't kill her, but if I did it, I have a whole explanation for it.
I'm sure you do, conspiracy theorist, but I don't think we need to give it air.
Hey,
I'd rather
Jen,
not.
Real question.
Brought it up.
As a former poll worker, I was talking to a friend at a think tank recently. They were sharing our overall opinion that elections are secure. They were not questioning in any way 2024. They're on board with us. But what they told me was that local elections are more prone to fraud than federal elections. And I think we didn't get into great detail, but I think the idea would be there's such a spotlight and security apparatus for federal elections that there really is very minimal fraud. Whereas when you get into like Toad Hump County, Texas, or whatever, that there's just not as many eyeballs on it, and there's fewer players that are controlling things, and so there's more opportunity. I don't know how that works in California. Is it the exact same people for polling purposes that are doing local elections and statewide elections versus federal elections?
Yeah, it's the same exact ballot.
In terms of counting and everything, that's all. Now, whether or not there are ballots that only list one and don't list others, or if all the things are aligned, I think that's its own question. I'll just say this about any system, regardless of the elections. I am of the opinion that our strongest systems are the ones that we can kick the hardest, that people can ask the most corrosive questions of, and you can demonstrate the most robust proof for. I think that in science, I think that in business, I think that in government, I think that in religion, it's just part of what I genuinely believe. So it's like, I do have a reflexive bile for the idea that we shouldn't question election systems, because I think that we need to. I think that we need to normalize the understanding and questioning of election systems. And the more that we hand wave them, the more we create the space for really, really destructive erosion of our faith.
And I think that if you're going to say there's possible fraud, you should have a tiny bit of evidence to start saying that out loud. Go ahead and question if you are someone who's doing an investigative report or something like that, but to get on the air and put these ideas out there with no evidence whatsoever, that I find irresponsible. Go ahead and question, but do it privately before you make it public.
Why privately? What's the difference between private and public?
Do your research. See if there's any evidence before you start putting it out there and making like MAGAs think that Spencer Pratt got fucked in this election and that there's fraud and that their elections aren't real. Like, there's real consequences to putting out questions like this as if they're valid when there's no evidence whatsoever that there was fraud in this election, just because you think it takes too long to count the votes. Like, I think that if you're looking at an election as a journalist and you see something, say something. And then you can put the question out there. But if all you're seeing is that, just like in every other election, California takes a long time, I don't think that that is valid or that is a reason to go and then take the next step of, it took a long time like it always does, therefore there may be fraud. Let's put that out there and just put that in people's minds, have them question the validity of this election. Like, it's happening too often. And as you've already said, it's happening in both parties, whether it's Stacey Abrams or Donald Trump. Like, enough of this. Like, you have to have some kind of evidence before you can start making these claims. Like, we can't keep pretending that our elections are fucked because people are believing it.
Yeah.
I just think it's irresponsible journalism. And punditry. I think pundits should be responsible for their words as well.
I think people should be able to say whatever they want. I think that it is up to the systems to have robust evidence to slap it down. And I think
California does. That's what I'm telling you. California does. The problem is it takes too long to count the votes, not the fact that the votes are fraud. There's a huge difference there.
Well, I mean, I don't know. This is not a topic, so maybe we'll do it later. Maybe we'll do a California voter system topic, because there are other things that I would circle. But
for the record, I really enjoyed this conversation. I think, genuinely, I think you both had very interesting points. Justin, that's never been a position that I've had or thought about. I'm going to have to noodle that. But the idea that the strongest institutions need to be able to absorb the most criticism, and that if we treat them as delicate, they will be delicate. That's an interesting position. Jen, you raised lots of good points too. I think my default is on the elections are legitimate unless otherwise demonstrated, and we shouldn't be delegitimizing them. But like, Justin, you made me think about stuff. This was a fun topic. I'm glad you guys got into it. And I was very funny.
From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young from Los Angeles, California.
I'm Jennifer Brainy.
And from a shack in Oklahoma.
From his parents' backyard at a 13-foot fiberglass camper, I'm Andrew Heaton.
And we're not wrong. On this edition of the program, we'll be talking about the rules of the road for AI ads. And we have a few that are, I think, pushing up against the line. We will get to that. We will also talk about new polling demonstrating that America's getting more prudish. All that and emails. Let's begin with these AI ads. The slop terms roll on, friends. Cheap and steerable video models have proven irresistible for political campaigns and super PACs leading into the primary and general elections this fall. While some, like a song parody about Nancy Mace for her race where she came in 5th place last night, only showcases file footage of the Congresswoman, some go further. In fact, here, let's play the Nancy Mace ad here. We'll drop that in.
Up next, the new hit, Two-Face Nancy Mace.
She's two-faced,
Nancy Mace. Triplets and she flops all over the place. She's food-based, Nancy Mace. She won't make up her mind, that's such a disgrace. She's against trans rights,
but she used to be for.
I'm pro transgender rights.
Trash talk Trump.
Now she says she adores him.
She's food-based, Nancy Mace.
But meanwhile, a new ad showcasing James Tallarico singing a parody of the song These Are a Few of My Favorite Things about trans kids is only one shot, right to camera, testing the line between an intentional attempt to fool viewers into believing that the candidate is really singing the song.
Boys in white dresses with blue satin sashes, girls stuffed with hormones till they grow mustaches, changing the gender of all your offspring. These are a few of my favorite things.
Now, obviously, we are still early with this technology, but Heaton, I will ask you, what morally are the right guidelines that we should be pushing and enforcing for AI ads?
Before I get into that, may I just say how immensely excited and then disappointed I was by the aforementioned Tallarico anti-campaign ad? Because I saw The Sound of Music, and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be James Tallarico cinematically spinning around in an Austrian mountain field, singing a parody of The Sound of Music. It's absolute horseshit. I was so unimpressed with the quality of it. It's just him sitting in a chair, direct to camera. There's no music, and it's not even the right melody. Like it's like this was some shitty intern that cranked that in Vato, and
or was that the point? That it was supposed to look more
that
real.
Might be the point, and that is actually a very good Fraser point to think about how we're going to go forward with this. I think we are going to require more case law for this or more policy law for this. And the issue that we find ourselves running into is that there are two competing elements here that are coming into conflict with one another. The first one is that there are very strong, robust protections of political speech. The First Amendment speech is in and of itself very protected. There are exceptions to what you can do. As a private individual, you have right of publicity, which is available to you in terms of using your likeness for commercial speech. So Scarlett Johansson's voice being cloned and then used in an advertisement, you can't do that. That's sort of commercially stealing in effect. You can't take Samuel Jackson and use his picture for a Nike advertisement without paying him. But the courts, I think rightly, have determined that free speech in terms of politics is so important that when there's ambiguity or when there are conflicting values, we are going to err on the side of giving discretion to political speech. And that if you are a public figure running for office or holding office, you have less rights available to you in terms of your likeness than the average Joe, because you are in a position of importance and therefore are deserving of public scrutiny. So that's kind of where we are from the First Amendment perspective. But the second element that's running up against this is the broad category of willful deception, fraud, defamation, impersonation, forgery, false advertising, election interference. It would clearly be illegal to have a video made of AI James Tallarico saying, I'm dropping out of the election, don't bother showing up to the polls on the day of the election. That would unquestionably be against the law to do that. The Tallarico video is interesting because it does kind of go into a gray area. And this brings up the real problem with all of this, which is stupid people. The real problem here is stupid people, because you, me, and the listeners can all probably watch that video and say, this is clearly AI slop. For people that are idiots, they may not know that. They may not have the wherewithal to do that. And so we start getting into this odd phenomenon of creating gray areas where a campaign is intentionally skirting the line in order to try to cause mild personality defamation within the confines of the law. And that's bad. I'd say that is immoral. So I think that the solution to this is not to abrogate free speech law. I think that needs to remain sacrosanct. And I think the overall position that when in doubt, more speech is better. When in doubt, allow more satire or whatever. That's the right position. That should be our North Star here in terms of what people can do in campaigns. I think there might be a sub-argument that there's a difference between a political cartoon versus something so hyper-realistic people can't tell the difference, and that it substantially changes at some point. But I don't know that we actually need to get into that, because I think the solution to this is just labeling. What I would do if I were making a law for this is you're allowed to do AI videos of politicians. You can make James Tallarico singing songs about transgender kids or whatever, because broadly speaking, that does fall under satire, parody, and campaign ads. But what I would do is kind of the same thing we do right now, where a candidate has to say, I'm Ken Paxton and I approve this message. So if a campaign or a political action committee is using AI to portray somebody running for office, I would just make it a law saying that you have to have text on screen that is a fifth the size of the screen that says, this is a fake video created by AI for political purposes. Just have that on there so that the idiots like have an in-their-face thing knowing that this isn't real and that it's hopefully not taken out of context, although people try to crop it and shit. But I that's what I think you should probably do. And if you want to have a lot of fun with it, you could maybe require that the Benny Hill soundtrack must always be played over any AI-generated stuff in campaign advertisements. But that's about where I'm at.
Yeah, it's funny that you went to law, because I wanted to frame this under the idea of like morally, what do we think is right or wrong? I mean, do we think that anything, even if it's a gigantic, grandiose Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory thing where James Tallarico is singing about trans kids, that's bad? Or it's like, if I think this video rubs up against the line, it looks like just a home video or some kind of theater audition or something like that, that if you just played that in the middle of a college football game, that to me, I was uncomfortable by this ad.
The problem
because I do think it crosses into just like, you are misrepresenting this as real video.
So I think that's a very interesting distinction. And I think we have to separate the law from the morality when we get into campaigning.
Yes.
For one thing, the courts have already done that. One of the two relevant cases that I found in relation to this was United States v. Alvarez, which was from California that we were talking about earlier. A guy named Xavier Alvarez was an elected official who just falsely claimed to have the Medal of Honor. And he was prosecuted under the Stolen Valor Act, which criminalized lying about military decorations. The Supreme Court struck down that law and said, false statements are not automatically excluded from First Amendment protection. You can lie. What you can't do is defamation, fraud, forgery. You couldn't have AI write a fake check from Tallarico for a stripper or something, but you can lie. That's still protected by First Amendment stuff. Just saying a falsehood, even if it's self-aggrandizing or self-aggrandizing. The other reason that I think it's difficult to get into the morality is, I would say most politicians are kind of scumbags when it comes to campaigns. Maybe I've got the numbers here wrong, I'm also reading a biography of Richard Nixon, so I'm a little bit primed on this. But I'm going to use Nixon as an example here. Nixon viewed himself as I'm a dedicated public official who's running for good reasons to help the American people, and I strongly believe in civil rights and everything else. But of course, when you're running a campaign, you have to be a sleazebag. There's no other way to do it. You need to just smear everybody, and that's just part of the process. It's not personal. And I think there's a lot of politicians who do that, who they're like, no, I'm a good person. I would never lie to my family. I would never lie to my business associates. But this is how politics is done. You take something, you stretch it, you distort it, you selectively mention things. I'm going to talk about congressional records, but only the last 2 years. I'm going to say that the guy votes for the president 95% of the time. I'm not including that this includes voting to go on a bathroom break or voting for lunch because the political power, the party in power counts as the president. I'm going to willfully distort everything. I think that's all scummy behavior. I mean, anything other than I am running an actual campaign on ideas and ability is somewhat morally dubious and scummy. The problem is that's basically everybody. And so I don't really know how to put my finger on that and go, okay, you can be scummy in these ways, but you can't be scummy in these ways. Remember, politicians in general are a little bit scummy and want to get reelected. And so you should just always be distrustful of them, kids, regardless of what political party they're in. It's like D&D. You get like -5 charisma. All politicians are suspect. Just start with that as a premise.
Begin there. Jen, morally, where's the line?
Well, I mean, I also immediately went to law here because I think that in a country, when you look at what the law is, it should be a reflection of what we have collectively decided is moral. So it's like, thou shalt not kill turns into you can go to prison for life for murder. So like morality and the law, they are related. And when I look at what happened with James Tallarico in this video, and I do, I don't want to assume that the audience has watched this video.
It will have played before we started talking. So
okay, but like not everyone watches We're Not Wrong. They might be listening to it.
They'll hear it.
Yeah, but I want to make it like crystal clear that like this is a video where it looks like James Tallarico is singing a song that he never sang. And we do have First Amendment rights in this country, but that applies to your own speech. So if I say something as Jennifer Briney, I'm allowed to say it. Am I allowed to say something as someone else? Like if I put in print a quote from another person that they never said, is that not fraud? Like when I look at this looks like fraud to me because you're making it look like a man said something. Like our laws haven't caught up to the fact that you can now literally put words in someone else's mouth. And so I think the First Amendment has to apply to the first person. It applies to you, but you don't get to put words in other people's mouths. And so I don't think this is just about politicians. I'm a nobody podcaster, but I don't want AI videos out there of me that look like me showing me saying things that I never said. Like that should be illegal for everyone because I should have the right to determine what my speech is. And so, I don't think that we need to have a law specifically for politics. I think we need to have a law that says maybe something along the lines of what Andrew said, that if you are going to do something like this, there needs to be clear disclosure on that video in both audio and video form. Like there should have to be something in that ad that says this is not actually the speech of James Tallarico or something to that effect. Or you just can't put words in other people's mouths. Like the difference between satire and parody and the way it's been done before AI is like, you go on SNL and someone can dress up, like Tina Fey can go and dress up as Sarah Palin, but you know it's Tina Fey. We're changing that now. And so I think where it's so easy to put words in other people's mouths, we need protections for everyone, not just politicians.
So we've already seen laws around nudes. That's already passed. So the idea of creating fake nude pictures, I don't know if it's for everybody or just for teens or underage people. Like that's already passed. This is uncharted territory. And I think a lot of it is because these models are getting good enough that you can now do this where it's not just kind of the next level version of what you could do with Photoshop and motion graphics, because those have been around forever. Like that you can make somebody feel more sinister than they are, or you can have them be a puppet and literally open up their mouths and have them say a version of a thing they said or something like that that would make your point. With the idea, with the understanding being that all politics is weaponized opinion making. Like you are weaponizing the opinion of your position so you can get people into a booth to hit your button over the other person's button. I do think that we're at a point now where I think today we can have a conversation and today we can come up with moral lines in the sand where when things come down the pike, we can say, no, that's bad. We're crossing a line here even beyond partisanship, because that's the other problem is that we're in a highly partisan world where even things that we know aren't great, we kind of just let go if it means that our enemies get destroyed. Like we knew that it probably isn't good for society if we can just invent the idea that J.D. Vance fucked a couch and then just say it over and over again, and then that's a thing. We know it's probably bad that we can just make up a lie and repeat it enough that it just kind of becomes fact.
Justin, you
But
forget
didn't
that
stop
everybody
us from using it.
But everybody we disagree with is a subhuman who is willfully elected for evil and is therefore exempt from basic human decency. I mean,
And that's
did you not know
the
that?
thing and that's the thing with the Tallarico thing, where it's like, okay, they're obviously, what they're playing off of, for people who don't know, is that in an interview, James Tallarico was asked, what does he think of the most? I forget exactly what the question was, but what does he think of the most? And what he said in reality was the trans kids that showed up to the Capitol yesterday. What has been cut, it's not untrue. He just said trans kids. So it's like, what do you think of the most? And he goes, trans kids.
No, it was
So
love. He
What do
said,
you
I
love?
loved the
Sorry.
trans kids that showed up to fight for their rights yesterday, and they cut that sentence to say, I love trans kids, which
yes.
okay. It's kind of the whole thing. I just have to say my piece on this because it's been bothering me. The whole ad is based on bigotry against trans kids. There's nothing wrong. In fact, I think there's something beautiful about loving them, even if they're different from you. So it's like the whole ad is basically saying that he's a lover of trans kids as if that's a bad thing. So that's gross in and of itself. And then they have him sing this song that I found quite offensive and so cruel towards trans people. There's cruelness behind the message as well that I think needs to be acknowledged.
But again, it's like, it doesn't matter in the world of politics.
I get that, but I just wanted to say that because we have people in the audience
definition.
that are probably hurt by that, and I want them to know that it's not cool.
Yeah, I mean, and the messaging on the trans kids thing is, kind of the same lane as Kamala getting hit for the trans prisoner stuff, where it's like, it's about your priorities. And essentially what it's trying to signal to independent voters is James Tallarico is more concerned with a woke agenda you don't agree with than he is dollars and cents, which kitchen table issues.
They're going to do more and more because the Republican Party has decided to embrace moron economics, and they've also decided to be the party of big government that's mean. These are your options now. You can have big government that's liberal or big government that's mean. There's not really a small government party at work. And so if you're Republican strategists that can't run on economics or shrinking the government, and you've got a lot of stupid people you're trying to reach out to, culture war stuff's real good for that. So expect more of that in the future.
Yeah. My line would be, it needs to be meaningfully heightened. What we need to discourage
like puppets.
is...
Because I'd be fine with that. If you ever do AI of a political candidate, it has to be a puppet. Love that. You know what? I'm changing my thing. You don't have to have...
Well, the puppet's clearly not them. So, of course, that should be fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Anything that brushes up against the line of found footage, I am not for.
So
I think that is legitimately, we're into a bad place if you are running AI video that is even flirting with the idea that this is just found footage of your opponent.
So a point and a question. One, I do think this is very interesting in terms of how we're going to deal with it. In privacy law, there's a thing called mosaic theory. So without getting into a lot of specifics, police officers have the legal ability to see something in plain daylight that is clearly a criminal activity and investigate without having a warrant, meaning that if you leave the windows open on your house and you've got a meth lab that's visible from the street, the police have probable cause. Now, maybe they'll go get a warrant, but they've got probable cause for asserting such. Mosaic theory goes, right, but if we've got a Ring doorbell on every single house and we've got license plate readers in every single neighborhood and we've got all sorts of surveillance footage, all of which can be used to get a 360-degree view of any particular individual everywhere they go at all times. At some point, the sheer aggregation and scale of that information changes the nature of it. And it goes from guy on street to weird surveillance panopticon state. I think that there might be something similar that goes on with AI we would all agree a puppet's fine. We would all agree that a political cartoon is fine. but at some point when it becomes so realistic, there might come an ontological shift from satire to fraud. That being said, I'm curious, and I don't. This isn't a gotcha thing. I'm trying to get my mind around this. I know previously that we've done episodes or we've done topics on deep fakes.
Yeah.
And as I recall, both of you were much more lenient towards those. And the idea that there's really no way to regulate it, and how are you going to do it? Have your positions evolved? Did I misunderstand you to begin with?
I think, look, this is all, nobody should really be pinned down on opinions that they have on this technology right now. It is all emerging so quickly, and like our opinions on things that existed before are going to change based on the outputs. Like the models that have come out since we had some of those conversations are more photorealistic, and they are more, I can watch that video and I can tell you some of the hallmarks of the sound and the way that he sounds and the way that the audio's going, if even some of his movements, and I can say, all right, that's Seed Dance. The way that Seed Dance moves is this, that, and the other. The reason why they probably generated that song in Suno, because I can hear the way that
put
it's
in the
flat,
fucking lyrics
or,
that didn't even get the melody right. Lazy shits.
Well, yeah, oddly, it's like I wonder whether or not that also was intentional so they could stay away from getting sued by whoever owns The Sound of Music, or, these are a few of my favorite things. What I'm okay with morally is if you are visually illustrating a metaphor that is being spelled out. So even if you find it gross, like Thomas Massey having a throuple with Ilhan Omar and AOC, like where they're walking through the park and holding hands and then eventually going to a hotel, the narration over top of that was, Thomas Massey's got some strange friends. I bet you they're in love with each other. Like there's a metaphor that is being visually spelled out using this technology. I might not think that it's, the nicest thing to do in the world, but I have more wiggle room for that. There was no narrator in this video that was like, looks like James Tallarico singing his favorite song again. Like, and then he starts singing. It was just the clip, which I think you are meaningfully flirting with. You are asking for people to think is real. And that's where I would draw the line.
And for me, to be completely honest with you, Andrew, I don't remember what my opinion was on deepfakes because I have a terrible memory. Here's what I do remember, though. At the time we had that conversation, you two wanted me to join some app, which I think is now defunct, in which I had to give it permission to
Sora.
use my face.
Sora,
yes,
yeah.
Sora, so that you could make dumb videos that included
Yep.
me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was uncomfortable with even that. And so the idea that now that the technology has progressed to the point that someone can take my voice, which, with 15 years of audio of me out there, they can get
Not
me
hard.
to say pretty much anything they want, and then match it with a face that looks exactly like me and
they
make
can
it
take
look
your
like
face.
I'm saying something. Like, I am so far beyond the discomfort that I was with Sora with this situation. So my opinion may have changed. I don't know, but I know that this is where I am now, that I have now seen the red line. I think we have crossed it, and I would like some kind of law to protect us from it.
Yeah. Well, I would say everything starts with us. We can all have opinions on this, and that, like you mentioned, Jen, the morality shapes the law. So don't be shy about sharing where you think you are on stuff like this. Patreon.com/wherenotwrong is where you go if you want to get a bonus episode of this program. Hey, here's a little email that we got in. Special Patreon value update, right? 6-month value update. I signed up for the Patreon 6 months ago, and I wanted to let y'all know that it's more than worth it. You give me at least 5 extra laughs a week on these episodes, and for my money, that's a great deal. I'm sticking around for the foreseeable future. Well, friend, when you stick around for the foreseeable future, we're giving you a banger for the Patreon episode this week, because friends, Hunter Biden is back. He's got a Twitter account. He's got opinions. He is out there, and we will ask the only logical question. Hunter Biden has been popular on the internet for a week. Is he the next president of the United States of America? We will get the answers on the record from all three of us.
Hey,
on
listener,
our
thanks
Patreon
for saying the
episode.
nice thing about the value of the bonus episode. I appreciate that. I will add to that. we all very clearly let our hair down more in the bonus episode. For example, last week, I immediately texted our Crackshot editor, Will Saddleberg, and was like, the specific wording I had about fellatio was needlessly lurid. I would like you to bleep that. To which Jen immediately responded, no, it was funny. And I went, okay. But I wanted to censor myself based on that. And I probably wouldn't have done that on the main feed, but I will do that on the bonus feed.
Yeah, we definitely screw around a lot more on the Patreon in like a good way. I think we've also had some of our best conversations back there too, because I do feel safer to just say the thing. So yeah, I think it's worth your money if you're not joining us behind the paywall yet. Come
Yeah,
it's a good time.
Break the walls down, friends. Head on over, patreon.com/we're not wrong. Axios reports that Americans are becoming more morally conservative on several personal liberty issues, according to Gallup's latest Values and Beliefs poll. Support for birth control as morally acceptable fell to 83%, the lowest in Gallup's trend since 2012, while approval of having a baby outside of marriage dropped to 58% after reaching 70% in only 2022, only 4 years ago. Gambling hit a new low amid rising scrutiny of sports betting and prediction markets. The shifts were largely driven by independents. Gallup found majorities still reject issues like teenage sex, polygamy, pornography, cloning, suicide, and changing one's gender. Jen, any of this surprise you?
Not really. I mean, keeping in mind that I don't particularly trust polls to begin with. And this is purely anecdotal, but you have to understand, before we went on the air, I listened to Scott Pelley's interview with the New York Times. Scott Pelley is the correspondent from 60 Minutes who was fired, and he gave a lot of information about the pressure that is being put on people at CBS News to basically
the biggest blowhard on earth.
Regardless, I do think he's a trustworthy person who is telling us that like management has been pushing them to cover stories in a way that are more aligned with what the president wants. I believe that. Anderson Cooper also left 60 Minutes. And then there's also my own algorithm where I'm just finding, even if I'm not following these people, I'm just getting content from these Stepford wives that are, angry about abortion and talking about how there's a whole movement of like, child-free people are out of control. And like, I don't know. I'm just seeing a lot of this content that doesn't align with me. I don't know why it's being fed to me, but I'm getting it all the time. There's this Isabel Brown is who I'm thinking of. She's constantly in my feed. So just watching from my own social media and seeing how right-wing everything is just being pushed more. The Ellisons took over TikTok and CBS. They're going after CNN. I'm just finding that this old liberal media is becoming more and more right-wing, and it's not surprising that as goes the information, as goes the opinions. But I don't know. A lot of times when you get these polls, I don't know who they're polling. Like, did they poll people in red states and blue states?
They did
equally?
1,000 for this one. It was 1,000 people ages 18 to 65 or 75. I don't remember.
Yeah, but the ages tell me less than locations.
This is a consistent poll. Like this is
fine,
fairly non-controversial. This is a tracking poll.
I don't know. I just don't like the idea that 1,000 people are going to tell us how we all think about a thing. Like, I don't know. But the idea that we are collectively, if it's true, heading more in a rightward direction on things like this based on the inescapableness of more MAGA-ish lines of thought, I guess it doesn't surprise me that much because I'm trying to not see some of this stuff and it just keeps appearing.
Maybe you secretly like it. I'm not saying any of it.
I don't know. Well, I mean, my algorithm is definitely politically charged. That's true. So,
yeah, I think you're just getting popular political content based on your demo. Like females, age, whatever to whatever.
Yeah, but like you would think that it would feed me more Anna Kasparian than Candace Owens. And yet I don't even follow Candace Owens.
Maybe you're tired.
And she still
Maybe you're
shows
tired
up.
of Kasparian. You linger more on Isabel because you are frustrated.
I linger on Isabel because I think she's awful.
But you lingered.
For the most part.
You lingered. That's the
she's-
only thing that matters is that you
She's rage
lingered.
bait for sure.
Yeah.
And I find her very insulting in quite a few ways. But again, like, these are not the people that if you are the algorithm trying to completely please me, why am I getting Tucker Carlson? Why am I getting Candace Owens?
Because-
Like, why am I getting...
I can tell you why you're getting those.
Well, Israel
They have
is what
a
you're
very
saying.
specific new topic that they like to talk about.
Yeah, but I'm getting them just like in general. And again, I don't follow her. So, and this isn't, it's just like in general. I'm just getting more. And like I said, you rolled your eyes like crazy at Scott Pelley. That's fine.
Yeah.
I do believe him that Barry Weiss went into CBS News and is trying to massage stories to make it look a little bit more Trumpy. That's what we are afraid of. And then people are getting fired for no reason the day after they win Emmy Awards for the same show. Like, I do believe that there are, with the Ellison universe, TikTok, I do think that there is a massaging of political messaging in a way that is more favorable to Trump-like figures.
I actually don't disagree with you there. I do think that there is a deliberate attempt from the Ellisons to try to take their news divisions and salvage them from gigantic money incinerators to something that is more profitable and trusted. And part of that is trying to erase what is looked at as bias from those institutions. Personally, I think that Scott Pelley is a fat-headed fucking blowhard, and the idea that he was comparing himself to soldiers and that television journalists are like firefighters is just a total example of this bubble that they lived in, where the entire world was a New York City, Manhattan cocktail party. And that is the political spectrum that needed to be covered. Now, whether or not the Ellisons and Barry Weiss are right or they're good, fucking whatever. That's a new boss came in. Like, that's what happens. Like, if you were making a lot of money, maybe the old people wouldn't have sold you.
Yeah, but the point that I'm trying to make is that the direction that is being pushed by the new bosses is clearly in a rightward direction. And I'm seeing it in my own media consumption.
I would actually say, like, well, here, Heaton, what are your thoughts? And then I'll give mine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm open to that theory, but it's not the one that I would go to. What I first thought might be the case is this just could be demographic. The things that are specific in the poll are like, is premarital sex amongst teenagers okay? Is having a child out of wedlock okay? Is cloning a pet? Is gambling? And I thought it might just be the fact that the population in the United States is becoming older. I think the median age is now like 42. It's me. Whereas like in the 50s, it was like 16. So it could just be that people are getting older. But I'm going to dump that theory now because the speed with which approval of these things has dropped doesn't seem to be the speed at which the population is aging. So I'm going to toss that out. We've previously discussed similar things on the program. One of the theories that I think Justin put out was the idea that the 90s and 2000s was an extremely libertine-oriented cultural period where we decided, yay pot, yay gays, and that we're having a kind of backlash to that. I think that's possible. What I think is going on, though, my most likely theory is I think that we are living in a time of incredible change happening at an incredible speed. There's a lot of tumult going on economically, technologically, sociologically. And I think in the face of that storm of change, that people are instinctively trying to latch onto stronger social norms to provide a sense of stability. I think that that's what's happening. Now, all that being said, I would want to see what the actual wording was, because a lot of the stuff changes depending on what questions you're asking. Like, I would make a distinction personally on a lot of these issues between morality and prudence, which are related but different. So, for example, should a single person have a kid as one parent? I don't think that that's immoral, but I would say prudentially it's probably a bad idea. Now, if you've got the resources to do it, it might work, but just in terms of having two parents, it's going to be easier for you as a parent than having one parent. Doesn't mean it's bad. Like if you're a single mom or anything like that, I'm not saying you're a bad person or that it's unethical. Who knows? There might be some alternate future where in my 50s I adopt some kids as a single guy. I don't know. It could happen. But in general, though, I would advise people against it if they had an alternative. Ditto with gambling. I don't think gambling is inherently immoral, but I think it's kind of stupid unless you enjoy it for the sport of it. And if you do it in large sums, it's definitely imprudent. So those two things can get conflated, which could be part of this. I would also make a distinction between tolerance and acceptance. There's a difference between, I don't think, I'm speaking in general here, I don't think that transgender adults are a real thing, but I will not cause a stir on this versus like we should outlaw it. Celebrating and saying I completely agree with this thing is different than I disagree with this, but we can be neighbors. Those are relevant distinctions to me. And then the final one that I would put on is I think like it might just be that we're becoming less legally judgmental, but more morally judgmental, which I think I'm okay with. Like it could be that people are like, of course gay marriage should be legal, but I personally don't think gay marriage is a legitimate sacrament. I'm fine with that. I don't care. Like I'm more worried about the law side of that, the legal side of it. My fear would be, by the way, that this is more of an ideological drift amongst the conservative movement. This last year, I've had some interactions with some high-profile media people that are MAGA Republicans, and it seems to me that a big part of that group is just pissing off liberals, and that oftentimes means adopting positions that they know will piss them off, like being opposed to gay marriage or something like that. That would be my fear, but I think it's probably more of terminology that we're using in the questions combined with the fact that everything's changing, so people just want moral structure to make the world make more sense.
I think society is getting more morally conservative. Now, does that mean that they will be more politically conservative? No. I think that there are elements of conservation or moral judgment that are more about keep things the general way I know versus change things that are on the left wing, the left side of the aisle. And these coalitions that build around parties are ever changing. They are ever flexible. I would not be shocked. Like if you were to ask me now, which party would be more likely to introduce a 50-state online gambling ban? I'd probably say the Democrats more than the Republicans. I think that the Republicans would probably be more swayed by a technologist argument. Now that's not always the case, but then again, gambling is something that's always been in a weird, gambling is still a patchwork thing, but it is becoming more legal than it's ever been in our society. I just think it's partly what Heaton said. Things have changed a lot. Society is in many ways extraordinarily different than it was when we were all born in the early 80s.
Mid-80s.
Sure. Okay.
Give me that 1 year.
This guy.
84 is mid.
So really, we're 80. Wait, I'm
84 to 86 is mid.
I'm 82. I'm clearly
82. You're early.
elderly.
Yeah. Well, I'm in the middle. Like, fuck you. Whatever. You're early.
Sorry. Nope. I'm young and sprightly and insightful.
Of course you are. All right. The world's changed a lot. How we make money has changed. How we date has changed. How we get married has changed. How we raise our children has changed. And I mean, in both the macro, maybe not so much, but the micro, it's almost indistinguishable. Try to go explain to all of our parents how we are all making money right now. It would take a fucking while, right?
When I go to Alva for Thanksgiving, everybody's very supportive, and they're wonderful people who are baffled by what I do. Like they're all farmers, and they're like, so you're like a radio host, but they can put it on your phone and you tell jokes to strangers about horses, but you don't know, but they're rooting for me. They're very glad I'm not on the dole.
I think there's people in my life that don't think I work, where it's just like I say I'm a podcaster and it's like, oh, she lives off Joe's money. I think a few people think that. It doesn't sound like a real job.
But yeah, I think whenever you have change, I think the natural order of, by the way, dare I say, this is to the credit of the United States of America. The credit of the United States of America uniquely is that we look at problems and we do not believe that they have been credibly solved. And we constantly look for ways to make things different or hopefully better. But the natural way that these things come from is we look at process, we break down process, we change process, and then we eventually look back and say, was process change good? Was process change bad? You saw more of a conservative swing in the 80s coming out of the 60s and 70s because there was a lot of change. I think that you are now going to see a similar, more morally conservative change now. But I also think that a lot of the lines on this stuff have been radically redrawn. If you were to ask me where the natural demos of a lot of these things are going to go voting wise, like, I think there's a meaningful Republican, if not specifically MAGA contingent of gay men. I think that gay men might vote materially different than other elements of the LGBTQ.
I think that's true, and I think
coalition.
in our lifetime, I think you will see the rise of socially conservative gays. And by that I mean gays who are like flag, family, like all of the other stuff outside of gay marriage typically associated. Like Andrew Sullivan's actually a pretty good example of that. Somebody who is extremely bothered by transgender and is very gay.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's we're into a second level of a lot of these conversations that began when we were, the modern gay rights movement really comes out of the formalization of it, comes out of the AIDS epidemic, because you had a lot of organizations that were formed to deal with that then continue to move forward. But I think that's one of them. But gambling, drug use, we've kind of soft legalized a lot of drugs. We've made access to a lot of drugs really fucking easy. And I think that now the question is, the natural question is, whether or not you think it is good or bad is this good or bad? Regardless of where you come down. And I know my opinion. I'm very excited for this coming era, because now I'm going to get to be more of a libertine than society allowed me to be over the last 20 years. I think the next 20 years is going to be me sticking up for weed usage in a way that was either redundant or annoying for the previous 20 years.
Yeah.
Buc-ee's, huh?
I love the beaver. I know you boys love the beaver.
Hey, whenever I can.
We're not wrong pod@gmail.com, where you need to go if you want to get bonus episodes of this program. Oh, sorry, fucking Jesus. All right. Do it again. We're not wrong pod@gmail.com. Right.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. You guys know that one, right?
Yeah.
Fuck it, we'll do it live. Not the Casey Kasem one. All my old people emailed me over the fucking last week. They're like, of course the Casey Kasem thing. Everyone knows the Casey Kasem thing.
All the people that were 43 and up emailed you?
All right, enough.
The only
Florida
thing I
election.
remember about Casey Kasem is that he was on the episode of Saved by the Bell where Lisa Turtle did the sprain. Remember that dance?
No.
Like that was like a dance-off hosted by
I'm
Casey
too young
Kasem.
for that. I'm too young. Sorry, I don't
me too.
know that.
It's the only reference I've got of the man.
Sorry. Yeah, I guess that was for 1982 people.
Yeah. Hey, old ladies, email Justin about Lisa Turtle doing the sprain. That was a classic.
I knew him as a vibrant part of the Druze community. You don't hear about the Druze very often, but Casey Kasem was a shining beacon of that interesting subset of American and Middle Eastern culture.
Did you make that up or is that real?
No, he was a Druze.
Huh.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So much Casey Kasem content on We're Not Wrong.
Yeah.
This is what you pay us for.
Florida Election Yucks writes, our office welcomed a delegation from Africa to tour and observe our election process, including some folks from Chad. The retiring supervisor of elections, upon greeting the delegation in the lobby, jokingly put up her hands and said, "We don't allow Chads in here." The man's face simultaneously held a smile and a stifled, "What the fuck is going on?" I still cringe when I think about it.
I would have liked to have witnessed that, though. That's horrible.
Justin was right, says, just as Justin said, I'm seeing people all over social media talk about the obvious fraud because of the way they count votes in California. And then they clapped in the email 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. I would encourage everybody who's listening to this right now, please clap for me 9 times. We'll wait. Thank you.
Fast clappers.
Rise and Grind writes, Jen, if your husband wants to wake up and golf without waking you, have him wear an Apple Watch. I'm sure other watches can do it too. The haptic alarm works great. I get a vibration on my wrist and it wakes me up without waking my wife.
It's a good idea. I didn't know that was a thing.
I actually, that's how I wake up every morning. I wake up at 4:30 in the morning with a little tap, 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 tap on the wrist.
That's what no scotch will do for you.
On Graham Plattner, who, by the way, won his primary last night, 71% to 20-something% for Janet Mills, who was not campaigning and had ended her campaign. I will leave that up to folks to determine whether or not that's a good or bad number. But we got some emails about it. Main Event writes, I'm a tired Maine voter, and from where I sit, the national coverage is missing the local picture. Maine is a small, weird, and very purple. Portland is liberal, and the North is conservative. The state feels close to 50-50. My biggest issue is Janet Mills. A lot of Mainers don't like her as much as the National Democrats seem to think. People are angry about her handling of CMP power bills, COVID restrictions, and her veto on data center moratoriums. She feels more connected to companies and small insider groups than regular voters. Graham Plattner is flawed, but he comes across as earnest and human. The attacks on him feel like big money trying to kill off the new Bernie Sanders before he gets traction. Even people who don't agree with him wonder why the press is going so hard. And Susan Collins is 50-50, but most people are less happy with her votes than they used to be. If I were Mills versus Collins, I'd reluctantly vote Collins. Mostly, I'm exhausted by this race and I'm ready to move on. Brother, it's June.
It's only just begun.
Get ready for $100 million worth of Graham Plattner's a pedophile ads to come into your world.
I don't tend to say a lot of positive things about Bernie Sanders, but outside of his economic worldview, he got most of his fuck-ups done by like age 30 and really hasn't done anything massively electorally stupid since then. Like, he honeymooned in the Soviet Union. That was fucking stupid.
Wow, that was bad.
I would be amazed if Bernie Sanders accidentally got a Nazi tattoo or went on Kick. I'd be impressed if he went on Kick to send dick pics to 21-year-olds or whatever. But I don't think I realize that you leftists want more leftists, and I realize that you want a young, fresh Bernie Sanders to bring about the proletariat revolution so we can all cosplay as poor people, but I don't think Plattner's going to be your guy.
I don't know. They love him. Within you, there are 2 Jens, writes, Jen, I would never send anyone a nudie pic ever. This is such a bad idea. You could end up on the internet. Also, Jen, I think I should start an OnlyFans.
The second one's clearly a joke every time I say it because I am the person that would never send a nudie pic. So hope you guys know that's a joke. I would make a lot more fucking money if I did Congress with my tits out. I know this, but I don't do it.
You should run a poll.
You could probably stop talking about Congress.
Yeah, I think you should run a survey. I just want to see. I just want to see how much would people pledge for you to do the congressional dish topless. I would like to know what the market opportunity is here.
I don't think it's my existing audience that would support that at all. I think I would lose a lot of them, but I think that I would get more attention on the Congress that I'm talking about because the people that want to see my boobs would check it out and then hopefully they'd learn a thing about Congress. This is not a comment making me, giving me faith in America, but I do think I'd be much bigger if I was willing to flash what I got, but I'm not.
It does sound like you have amazing faith in your tits, which I like. I like the confidence here.
Generational faith in your tits.
I've been told they're spectacular. Not to brag, but I'm totally bragging. And you'll never see them because I'm a prude.
Finally, Maine is not Vermont, brings us on home. Bernie is liked as well as can be expected here, but we had an independent governor and have an independent senator for a while, albeit the same guy. Collins is not regarded as a Trump firebrand here, a Republican that Democrats vote for, but tell everyone that they didn't.
I mean, she's not a Trump firebrand. That's not a fair thing to say about her, but she's definitely a coward, especially in the last year and a half. She's voting against her conscience over and over again. So
I think Collins is one of a dying strain of Eastern moderate Republicans, what we would have called liberal Republicans about 30 years ago. Romney was one of them. Collins was one of them. You have Nelson Rockefeller way back in the day. She's part of a strain that used to be a powerhouse in American
Used to be
politics.
the dominant
one. And she's one of the very last ones of them. So she's like kind of in a third party in effect compared to the rest of the Republican Party.
Well, and also you even see this in some of the ads that she rolled out as soon as Graham Plattner won, but like, she brings the bacon. Do you like a social program in Maine? It will go away if Susan Collins is not the head of the Appropriations Committee. That is kind of the real dirt under the fingernails argument that Susan Collins can make as being a veteran of the Senate in the position that she's in, is that I bring home a lot of money that would not be in Maine if I were not here. Which tends to be bipartisan. All right. We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg. On PX3 this week, who did we talk to? We talked to Bill Scher about Graham Plattner. Bill Scher, Democratic commentator, made the argument that Graham Plattner was worth getting rid of if you were a Democratic partisan. And then on Friday, Carol Markowitz is on the program to talk about Republican stuff. So we're all over the map. I love both those guys, and it's always great to talk to them. Mr. Andrew Heaton, who's shambling into the political orphanage?
Do you guys know Brian Brushwood?
yes.
I'm in his house.
You're in his house right now, right?
I'm in his house right now.
Brian Brushwood has successily crested the paywall to be the kickoff main feed episode on the political orphanage.
God. I didn't know this was the case. He has been his ass has been chapped about this for years. You've treated him like a side piece slut, just hiding him. You won't take him to dinner. Take me to dinner, Andrew. Why don't you show me off? It's just you up, bang, bang, bang.
For the record, he has been over the paywall before. He just doesn't remember it. He is the kickoff episode. I am doing a 2-week running series on company towns. And the kickoff episode for this is, in fact, something involving Justin Robert Young. That is World's Greatest Con, a couple seasons back on Walt Disney and what would have been Epcot. And so Brian and I are talking about both the nature of company towns, and there's very different sorts. Like a extractive coal mining town is very different than billionaire deciding to reimagine the world, but with some darkness to it.
But it's got to make a little cash.
Yeah. So Epcot's the kickoff for that. The bonus episode this week is a very interesting historical chapter on Robert Owen, who probably American audiences will not be familiar with. He's purported to be the father of British socialism, and he started a company town in Scotland that was very, very nice to his employees, and then he decided, let's go full-blown socialism, and he bought a town in Indiana and created like a hippie commune. And then next week I'll have more stuff on that. But they're both very fun historical episodes on company towns coming up.
All right, Jen, what sizzles this week on the Congressional Dish?
The latest episode of Congressional Dish is still the episode I created about kids and screen time, and I've told you guys about that last week. But the next episode is a little bit delayed because I moved out of Austin, and it was a nightmare move. And then my dog got sick. It's been like a hell of a week. And in the process of packing and traveling and waiting in the vet rooms and all these things, I want to give a recommendation because I am listening to a book. It's called 1929 by Andrew Ross Sorkin. And it's about the crash of 1929, the stock market crash, but I'm about halfway through it now. It's a long book. But the parallels between that time and right now, as I'm also paying attention to this seemingly very scammy SpaceX IPO, and then there's going to be an Anthropic IPO and an OpenAI IPO, and just all of this exuberance in the stock market. The parallels are so striking that I would just like more people to know about this. So yeah, the book is really fascinating. I'm enjoying every second of it. And yeah, it's called 1929.
There we go. Well, that'll wrap it up for us. Until next time, this is your old pal Justin Robert Young saying for Jen Briney and Andrew Heaton, we're not wrong. AI James Tallarico singing voices.
Dog and Pony Show audio.